Off the bye, ready to roll. What happens next for the Chiefs offense, and how do they build momentum to get to that three-peat today on Locked On Chiefs?
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. You can make your first $5 bet, and you're going to get rewarded with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed at FanDuel.com to get started. We're going to get started with Matt Derrick here from ChiefsDigest.com, the man on the beat, the man in the locker room, the guy who knows everything that we don't know and is going to tell you. Welcome to the show. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, and RGR Football. NFL 33 just happens to have a new piece that I just put out this morning about the craziness that's going on around the league. And then craziness exploded today. We'll cover some of that coming up. Thanks for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make another show on this Locked On Podcast Network your next listen. We appreciate it. Like, sub, hit the bell here on YouTube. Join us on Spotify and Apple Music. Wherever you get free podcasts, you can get us 5 days a week. We'll even give you a little bit more if you want on that text line. Our everydayers are there, and we appreciate you guys. It's 816-357-8781. ChiefsDigest.com is where you go to see Matt. We're going to talk about the 49ers, the threats that they are, and what his prediction is coming up later in the show. How do they build momentum in what is a very strange year for them, especially given the last few? That's coming up next, but we start about the state of this offense, one that has been a little bit maligned this season, had some trades go down today that might have been some targets, or at least one of them, and CEH is maybe a little bit cloudier than we thought. Matt, what stands out to you about, as they come off this bye, something Andy's really strong with, where do they start? How do they take this offense up right now, given everything that happened today?
Yeah, and I don't know that today really affected the Chiefs much. I mean, Andy told us on Monday, kind of outlined what the importance would be of, getting a receiver that, had some at least good scheme fit with this team and how important that was. And then finished it all up by saying that he's not necessarily convinced that they need to go out and get a receiver. But so what did the Chiefs do during the bye week? I mean, self-scout's a big part of it. That's a huge part. It's really just, the team, the coaching staff going over, scouts going over and really identifying, what are the weaknesses of the team and how they can improve them. Certainly red zone efficiency, red zone offense was a big part of that discussion. And hey, how did they go about approaching it? How did they fix it? I mean, Andy Reid's not going to tell us. I mean, the proof's going to have to be in the pudding and what we see on the field. But, I think you can take some guesses at least at what they're thinking about doing. I think that when you've got a battering ram like great Kareem Hunt, that's got to be a part of your red zone efficiency going forward and seeing what he can do at the goal line. Certainly right now, Kareem looks like a guy who can get you 2 yards in any situation. So if you got first and goal to 2, is Kareem not going to be your first, second, and third choice? I mean, and it goes back to I think we may have talked about this before the bye even. It's just, what's the problem with this team in the red zone? I mean, I think it's identifying just what their identity is. They don't know if they want to be just maul people in the goal line and knock them over. They don't know if they want to be a finesse team. And I think this is one of those things where if you don't know what you are, you're not anything. I mean, you try to be everything, you're nothing. You've got to figure out what is your strength. What are you best at? I mean, it's not like that the Philadelphia Eagles get to, fourth and inches and decide what player we're going to go with here. They got one play. They run every time, and it works 92% of the time. So, I mean, that's what the Chiefs have to do. I mean, it's figure out what they do best at the goal line and become masters of that and do it. And I think you'll see that. I mean, I think they're going to pare down what they're doing offensively in the red zone to try and become that. I'm not sure there's a whole lot to improve defensively, but I'm sure that Steve Spagnuolo is very anxious to test out some of the things that they're coming up with against tight ends, because if what they do against tight ends works against George Kittle and they're able to keep Kyle Juszczyk from torching them again, then the defense is going to feel pretty good about themselves going forward.
As they should. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute because I agree with you. An identity would be great, and I would love for it to be we can run for 2 yards whenever we want to, no matter what. But let's be honest. Andy joked about Kareem needing to be in the tub all bye week. He had the shoulder after his first action. Do we really feel that we can lean on 25 carries a game for Kareem Hunt? Do we really feel like Samaje Perine and Carson Steele are enough to supplement that? Steele's been decent in the short yardage situations because he does run hard. He does have the fumble thing you still got to work through. And then we find out today, Clyde may not be back like we thought he was. Is it enough to have that kind of physical nature become your signature in the red zone if you're relying on backs that maybe are not reliable?
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, was the interesting thing that kind of came out of that Saints game and everything, is that the Chiefs really didn't show any confidence in anybody who wasn't Kareem Hunt in that game. And I don't know. I mean, there was even a part of me as we were watching that, as we kind of dissected that Saints game, that maybe a little of that was Andy just kind of letting Kareem get all of the rust knocked off at one game, knowing that he had the bye week behind it to get some rest, and that he was okay with maybe giving him more workload than they were comfortable with. That said, I mean, if anybody in their backfield that they're ready and willing to give 20 or more touches to right now, I'd probably even say 15 or more, maybe even 12. It's Kareem. I mean, he's the guy that's built for it. He's the guy that's done it in the past. I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, you saw in the Saints game, I think his efficiency and his speed, everything kind of eroded once you reached a certain point of the carries, and that's natural. I mean, that's just typical of running backs in this day and age. You know, you're not going to be as fresh on your 25th touch as you are on your 15th, and you're not as fresh on your 15th as your 5. So, and especially after such a long layoff for Kareem. So I do think that might have just been Andy trying to kind of turn up the heat a little bit and bake off some of the rust off of Kareem and let him shake it off, then knowing he's got a week in the tub to relax and recoup before going up. But I do think that going forward, you're going to see a little more balance. But let's face it. I mean, until Isaiah Pacheco gets back, this is Kareem's backfield.
Okay. And when Isaiah gets back, I think you feel comfortable with that as well. I'm just trying to see how they get there. They have to build momentum in order to do that, because this is a weird year for them. How do they do that in this second half, which is really the second 2/3 of a season that's coming up next? When you're hiring for a small business, you want to find the quality professionals with the right fit for the right role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. It has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team. I'm always looking at LinkedIn. It isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you find professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively looking or searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. It goes down the easiest way to post your job for free is on linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. PrizePicks has daily fantasy sports and makes it accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your money. Run your game all season long at PrizePicks. They make it simple, and they even invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So sign up today and you can get $50 instantly when you play a $5 lineup. You don't even have to win to receive that 50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the Gametime app and use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $50 instantly after you play a $5 lineup. Super simple. Download that app, use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and get that 50 bonus for playing a $5 lineup. Super easy over at PrizePicks. There is a ton to go over, and it falls into categories, especially for Andy Reid, of routine. This year's a little bit different, Matt. It feels like, quite honestly, they're just coming back to the building after having an off week. It feels like they just broke camp, but yet here we are at their bye so early in the season. When years past, they've had week 10, week 12, late season where they can afford to get that rest, get rested up, and really push through the end of the season. This has to be a different plan. How do they adjust that? And how do they build the momentum in order to peak at the same end of the season that they're trying to hit like every other year?
Yeah, you're right. It's a lot different feeling. I mean, on the one hand, we went into the bye week and thinking, gosh, the bye week is already here. And then you come on the other side of the bye and you're like, well, it is week 7. So it's progressed at the same time. The season both seems to be flying by but the early bye is it's hard. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, if you're an NFL team, you would love to have the later bye, and the Chiefs have had good fortune in having some later bye weeks. I mean, I think that there's still, hey, if the Chiefs don't get the number 1 seed, they're going to be really excited about having that kind of mini bye before week 18 and that 10-day break. If they do get the number 1 seed, I mean, they could have like a ridiculous amount of off time going into the bye, or going into the postseason. But, you are looking at the prospect that, the Chiefs have a pretty good chance of having to play like 16, 17 games in a row, weeks in a row, if they make it to the Super Bowl. So yeah, that's a challenge for any team when you've got to go into that. And, and that's why my only real concern about the Chiefs being 5-0, if you have a concern, and it even bigger than just any of the struggles that they've had on offense or anything of that nature, is just, did they have to work too hard to get to 5-0? Because we know they're taking every team's best shot, but at the same time, you don't want to strain too much. And let's face it, the last couple of seasons, and last year was a great example. I mean, this team didn't really peak until January. It wasn't until after Christmas Day that they kind of found their footing. So, and I think it's way too difficult. I mean, to try and run off, knock on wood, undefeated season. I mean, if this team needs a loss at some point just to get that monkey off their back, because that pressure of three-peating and undefeated would be ridiculous. I mean, that's just, no team will be able to handle that pressure. So just, you need that monkey off your back alone. But, I do think it's intriguing because you look at the way that the Chiefs have managed a little bit of this season. I mean, and especially we've talked about the rookies and the newcomers. They've got half dozen guys on this roster that they really haven't activated yet and kind of taken advantage of. And I do think that part of that is that they're kind of pacing these guys a little bit, and certainly the rookie class, to make sure that this rookie class isn't playing a 21-game season. They really want these guys to play more like a college season, like a 12-game season. So I think that's, why you haven't seen the likes of a lot of Jaden Hicks or anything of that nature. You're going to see a lot more of these guys in the second half of the season. And, and Cam Thomas probably fits in that category, Marlon Tuipulotu too. You're going to get Charles Omenihu back. So there's no doubt, I think, that the Chiefs have built their usage. They've built their game plans a little bit around, okay, who are we going to play early? Who are we going to play, focus on in the middle of the season? Who's going to be highlighted late in the season? I mean, I think that's been part of their game plan from the very, very beginning. And certainly injuries offensively have affected that a little bit. Defensively, I don't think it's really affected them that much at all.
Yeah, I would agree, because everybody you named is who I was going to bring up in that it feels like it's stacked of your delayed players on the defensive side by design, whereas you've been forced into some moves on the offensive side. And maybe that plays into Kingsley Suamataia. We're coming off of the bye. I think their play with Wanya Morrison, he has been probably even, stronger in some places, weaker in others per guy. In the end, as you get to the longevity of the season, I wonder if upside doesn't win out. Do you see anytime soon, whether it's now or sometime down the stretch of the season, where they make another change, or is it they're not moving anything they don't have to for the rest of this regular season?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick with what I've kind of said all along, is that when the Chiefs make a move again, they want it to be the last move. They want it to be the last time. So, when they do, if and when they do pull Wanye out of there and they put Kingsley back in, it's because they think that Kingsley's ready to do it, going forward. When I asked Andy about it, I mean, he said that was obviously one of the things that they looked at during the bye week, and said exactly what you did. Both of them can do better. They both have got things to work on and things to get better at. I think the question is really just going to be, has Kingsley had enough of a mental break to kind of regroup and get ready, and also cleaned up enough and, kind of fix some of the things that were, causing him some problems and everything, that they feel like that, he can, take that next step and won't, have a regression again. I mean, that's why it wouldn't surprise me if they gave Wanye a few more starts to see what happens. It also wouldn't surprise me if Kingsley was back out there after the bye week. This was kind of the same thing that happened with some other guys like Laurent Duvernay Tardif. They benched him kind of early into his rookie year, gave him, I think, 3 or 4 games off. He came back and then, never got benched again until the end of his time in Kansas City. So there is a method to their madness. But I do think that if and when they make the change, it's a permanent change.
Last thing about how they go about this kind of strange year in terms of scheduling, is there any one position group or any player actually that stands out to you that is in position to benefit from this early bye rather than a later one? I mean, as much as 7 weeks possibly in difference. How does that help them? Where's the ray of sunshine, Matt? Help me find it.
Well, I mean, I do think it's on the offensive side, and I might even just want to go with the offensive group in particular. If you want to narrow down, I mean, I think you could see why that this would be a good time for a break for the wide receivers, for Patrick Mahomes, for the running backs, for the offensive line. It's all for different reasons, but I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, with the challenges and the setbacks, the injuries, everything that this offense has taken in the first 5 games of the season, and even going back to training camp. A week to just kind of step back, collectively look at the big picture, see where things are going, see what's going on, what's working, what's not. I mean, when you're in it week to week, you really can't react to the massive injuries, because you think about how much of this offensive game plan was built around the skill sets of Pacheco and Hollywood and Rashid. Well, you don't have those 3 guys now. And, you're not going to have 2 of them for probably the entire season. So, when you're in it week to week, you can't just all of a sudden say, all right, this is out the window. We can't do this anymore. The bye is your chance. The bye is your chance to kind of pare down a little bit, maybe even add some things. I mean, the teams don't necessarily want to do installs mid-season and start adding new stuff. But there might be a few things you need to add because you got different personnel than you had back in June and July when you're putting all this together. So that's where I think that the benefit of the bye would certainly be just kind of doing that self-scouting. So you're looking at each guy's individual performance more. You're looking at the big picture too, and just seeing, hey, what is this group able to do? Because you've got a different offense right now than you thought you were going to have 6 weeks ago. So that to me is the benefit. And, certainly the left tackle spot, I think that's a big one. But your wide receiver room, just kind of regrouping and, and kind of analyzing what you have and how to take advantage of that. That's what the bye week is for, because you don't have time, in the middle of the season, week to week. You're too busy to do a big picture look. So this is your only chance to do it, really, until you get ready to go into the playoffs, if you get a bye in the playoffs.
Right. And I think this coaching staff is one in particular that can double down on putting guys in positions to do what they do well. I think Juju was a great example of that. We'll see where that goes in the future. But you got to address the threats too. The Niners are one that I think is better off than we expected them to be at this point. What happens next on the backside of this? Hey there, NFL fans. You can get started right now with a big return with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Takes the life out of your middle there. And so when you have that hunch in the middle of a ball game or in the middle of the day on a packed Sunday with a full slate, you can check the latest stats, check out the live play-by-play, and get that so deep into the game that you can make your decisions and go on the same page to place your bets. Makes life super simple. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. It's over at FanDuel. There's a lot of options there, especially when Patrick's throwing interceptions early or we're running the ball really good. You never know what's going to happen. But if you have a gut feeling, check it out at FanDuel.com. Folks, Chiefs Digest is the way to go. If you want information from Matt directly, you can even get it here on YouTube on his channel. You can check me out at NFL33.com and RGR Football as well. And if you're starting to look at the draft season, you might as well be on Rogue APC, so check that out. We have a lot here, Matt, and this is a team that the Chiefs are about to face that I was kind of smiling about the whole time, because no one took a Super Bowl loss harder than Deebo Samuel. And they start the season and Debo gets hurt. There's all the drama with Brandon Ayuk all offseason, and he still is honestly a lost guy in that offense right now. Kittle comes in and is not performing the way they want him to. He's banged up a bit. And then obviously CMC is in the wind. But last week they turn it around and stuff starts to click and Purdy's moving the ball pretty good. And Kittle shows back up and Debo shows back up. Are they about as peaked out as they can get right now to face these Chiefs? And are the Chiefs ready for this group even without CMC?
I mean, that's the big question. I mean, you're right. I mean, before the bye week, I would have said 49ers don't have much of a chance without Christian McCaffrey because he's just too important to that offense. And you've seen through the first month of the season just what that team is like without him. Now you are starting to see all the pieces kind of get together. Maybe, the guys are getting healthy, maybe just having the entire team together, which they didn't have really during all of training camp. They were a little bit like the Chiefs in that regard too. Now they're finally getting all of their pieces together. But inconsistencies has been kind of, what this team has gone through the first, 6 weeks of the season. It's which 49ers team are they? Are they the 49ers that have been kind of the NFC dynasty over the last 5 or 6 seasons, or are they at the end of the run and now just showing their age and just don't have it anymore? I mean, I still think that the 49ers are going to make a run. I don't think that they're scary as they looked like, but remember, they want this game. I mean, they want it bad. It means a lot more to the 49ers than it does the Chiefs. And that is true every single week. But this one is probably more on steroids. I mean, they would like to get the revenge game on this one. And I was going back, Ryan, thinking about the last time that these two teams met in the regular season. And remember, that was Christian McCaffrey's first game. He'd only been in San Francisco for like 48 hours before they just shoved him out there on the field because they needed him. And, and the Chiefs absolutely rolled him that day, even though McCaffrey had a good performance. But the Chiefs just absolutely took him to the woodshed. Can the Chiefs do that again? Andy Reid coming off a bye? I mean, there's all the intangibles except for that one, I think, are on the 49ers side. But when you think about Andy Reid getting a full 2 weeks almost to prepare for a team, and a team that certainly he knows as well as the 49ers, I mean, that's a good situation to be in. And then, you think about the elements that the 49ers have that haven't been slumping. Nick Bosa. I mean, that's a scary resource as it is. So let's see what happens. I mean, I don't know. I'm just bizarrely bullish on this one, Ryan. I mean, I probably should take the 49ers to win because I do think that they're going to want it more. I'm going and basing off more that the 49ers have been inconsistent, and therefore I think that they've got an inconsistent game coming up this week after a really good game last week. So I'm going to the Chiefs 27-17.
Oh, I like it. It a lot.
I believe in Spags' defense. I think they're going to be able to get to keep them in check.
Spags' defense will be one of my keys, folks. You'll get my prediction on Friday in the game preview, like you always do. You can get all of Matt's work, including following up that prediction at ChiefsDigest.com. I like where you're at, Matt, because any defense that still has Fred Warner and Bosa on it makes me a bit trepidatious, but I do think, just like the Super Bowl, the Chiefs defense is one that can go blow to blow with them. And it does come to offensive efficiency, which I think the Chiefs will have the advantage in. It's just the big playability there that is going to make me nervous. But we'll break more of that down later this week. And Matt will have more reports on ChiefsDigest.com and on Chiefs Digest here on YouTube. Matt, thanks for your time and for making the bold prediction that I'm now going to have to really consider agreeing with.
Oh, now I'm really on the hook. So if Chiefs don't pull this one off, I'm going to get all the blame.
Rutro, oh no. Until next week when we make another prediction, folks. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell. We appreciate you guys spending time with us. There is nothing more to this season right now than the game after game after game. Let's hope that they get on a roll. Check out Matt. Check out NFL 33. We appreciate you being here, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.